again. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as other things. Very interesting that the article from RVbusiness.com about the Tampa Bay RV show was not as propaganda led as initially thought. Let me explain. If you read the article says that the RV industry has a positive outlook towards 2025 after leaving the Florida Super Show. That's because a lot of folks know, good morning, like I said yesterday in the video I did, that the Tampa Bay show was very disappointing as far as attendance. So attendance figures did not hit expectations. And I'm talking about those quiet expectations. They used Tampa Bay as a measuring stick for the rest of 2025. Some guys are well connected, some guys aren't. But at the end of the day, the Tampa Bay show, in my opinion, from what I've heard from the guys I'm connected to, is it actually was pretty successful. Even with the big time loss in attendance, or I shouldn't say loss in attendance. I should say, even though the attendance did not hit the expectations or the figures they were hoping for, the dealerships did really well. As I said yesterday, good quality deals, good quality customers. Folks that were upside down in trades had cash down. Folks that didn't have trades. Folks that sold their trades. A lot of good stuff was occurring. I'm going to turn off the car. A lot of good stuff was occurring, and I could hear a pep in people's step. You know, last year, oh yeah, we threw up like 100 deals to this weekend. And it's like, well, that sounds good. Yeah, I don't think we'll get most of them done because people are either have unexpected interest rate expectations or they're so upside down their trade, we're never going to get them out of it. This year, it's like, hey, guess what we did? We did like 80 deals this weekend. I think we're going to get every one of them to actually be picked up and delivered. The difference is in the attitude. So the consumers that did go out to the show were high quality, high credit, cash buyers. Everything you're looking, a good recipe, a good mix for a super show. Good for the dealers, good for the industry, bad for the show promoter. Because here's the problem. The problem is that when you run a show, you're running a show to make a profit. You're looking for attendance because the larger the attendance, the more you grow the attendance, the more dealers want to go to that show. That's the mindset, right? When your attendance goes down, even though the quality is up, when attendance goes down, hi, Black Hole from Teapot, it starts making dealers go, do I really want to pay that much money to be at that show when I could simply put that money into advertising for my actual locations? The manufacturers start going, do we really want to spend that much money to do a super show when attendance either is dropping or being stagnant? So it's a double-edged sword in a lot of respects. I think this is an anomaly because there are so many things going on during the RV Super Show in Florida. You had the TikTok ban that was still up in the air today. You had President Trump being inaugurated. You had just so many distractions, the California fires. A lot of people were focused in on other things that are not RV buyers yet. They might go to the show because, oh, in 5 years, I'm going to do this. Those are the people that are the most profitable for the showrunner, because those people don't buy RVs, but they're going to come out in attendance and pay for parking, pay for a ticket, buy food, things of that nature. And the more packed a show is, the more dealers go, wow, a lot of people, you did a great job promoting it, right? So that's kind of where that leaves us. So even though attendance at the Tampa Bay RV show was way down compared to what expectations were, the dealers and the consumers did very well. I think the Camping Worlds, the General RVs, the Funtown RVs of the world, the Bish's RVs of the world, I think they're going to be very satisfied with what they came out with. And that's the most important part, is they moved, from what I understand, they moved a lot of 2024 inventory. My husband passed away 4 months ago. We filmed. So that's a reality that we're in right now. Is I think RV shows are going to become insignificant pretty soon. I think that in 10 years, it's going to be like a display show. You're going to go into a thing and there's not going to be salespeople. There's not going to be show deals. There's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be a presentation by manufacturers. And hey, you live in Georgia, here's your Georgia local dealer if you want to buy this. Because I just think that the attendance of these things is going to drop. I think in 10 years, we may not have RV shows, because it's almost not necessary anymore. Look at this fact. Show pricing is higher the majority of the time than the pricing you get at the dealership lot. Hello, Skylar. Happy Tuesday. A lot of what you're getting price-wise at the show is the same price or higher than what you can get at your local dealer lot. Okay. Why? Because it costs money to run those shows. So they have to pass that cost on to the consumer. There are good things about shows. Don't get me wrong. A lot of positivity around shows. But that's just one fact nobody talks about or really looks at. Number two is now, and I'm going to name some names here. Okay, so nobody get mad at me. But you got Matt's RV and Towable Reviews. Matt probably does what? 300-400 RV walkthroughs a year plus. You got JD, a Big Truck, Big RV. He probably does 250 a year plus. You got Josh, the RV nerd. Him and Matt, probably the same. You got Miles, MYLES. He does at least 400 or 500 walkthroughs a year. You got me. I do usually about 100 to 120. And then you've got another 30, 35 corporate RV dealership YouTubers across multiple platforms that do walkthrough and review videos. So you could literally, instead of going and paying gasoline or electricity, paying for a ticket, paying for parking, you could literally stay on YouTube or TikTok or Rumble and just about watch every floor plan. For example, there's floor plans Josh didn't film that I have. There's stuff that Josh has filmed that Matt doesn't have access to. Almost every single YouTuber has access to get you at least 2 to 3 videos. There's a guy that he's a smaller channel. He works for, I can't remember. He works for one of the Canadian corporations, one of the big, I think Western Skies or something like that. Big dealer, like a Camping World size dealer in Canada. And he does a lot of walkthroughs on truck campers. He's one of like only 2 or 3 people that do it, but he does every single truck camper built. So you literally have an RV show on YouTube. And then literally you can go, okay, I like these top 5 things, and you could Google where they're at and drive to the location and go look at them without a crowd of people. Without a bunch of sales guys vulturing over you. So the world is going virtual when it comes to watching the RV industry or making decisions on RVs. Young lady emailed me the other day. Said the only reason why she went to the Tampa Bay show, or was going to the Tampa Bay show, was because it was the only place she could see one unit before she made a decision. And she ended up not buying that unit. She ended up buying actually a unit that was far on the West Coast. She bought a Genesis toy hauler instead of a Forest River toy hauler. And she was thanking me because she said that a lot of my toy hauler videos give them measurements and everything else, because, you know, it's just tough to do stuff like that, right? So with all that being said, this is gonna, it's like, and I'm pretty sure like the other guys will tell you the same thing. Over half the people watch my walkthrough videos on their television. They watch on YouTube TV. Half. That tells me that the new wave of shopping for an RV is through social media. This is why TikTok, staying in the United States, is important. And it's important for a lot of small businesses. And it's important for a lot of large businesses, because it's the way you shop anymore. It's the way you shop for clothes, handbags, wallets, hats, jackets, cars, RVs, boats, dirt bikes. It's no longer you go get in a car and go visit 10, 12, 13 different places. You now have all the access to everything at the touch of your hand, the touch of your remote. And you can break down like, okay, because you still got to see these things in person a lot of times. But now it's like, okay, I like the Brinkley 3400Z. That's one of 5 fifth wheels. I've narrowed it down to. I'm not going out and looking at 100 fifth wheels anymore. I now got it narrowed down to 5 because I've done all this research on YouTube and TikTok and Rumble and Instagram and Facebook, etc. So then you go touch and feel in person, but now you've got 4 or 5 units, and you go, okay, thank you. And you, okay, then you get to go, no, yep, no, yep, no, yep. It's a whole different world we were in compared to when I first got in this industry 15 years ago. We are at an age where our phone is our greatest shopping tool. And we don't realize it. But how often do we actually go try on clothes anymore? Not as for fun, not to have a girl's day or a guy's day or have a shopping day. I'm talking about how often do we sit there and say, okay, we gotta go try on a shoe. We just buy them. We like them, we buy them online, they get shipped in, we try them on. Oh, they don't fit, we ship them back, get another size. We're in a different world. And that's what I've been trying to explain to RV dealerships. So where General RV and Bish's RV are way ahead of the game, even though they screw it up, is they already got their guys in place that do all this stuff. My only thing that I have against Bish's and General RV specifically is they handcuff their guy. And they don't realize that that's more harmful than good. Putting shackles and handcuffs on your people in general because you're worried about offending someone is not the way to do business. And my perfect example is, how many people has Elon Musk pissed off in the last 20 years? How many people has Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos offended in the last 20 years? A ton. And the list is growing. And yet, their companies are thriving because they make business decisions not based on whether it's going to offend somebody or not, or whether it's going to make somebody go, oh, you're offending me. It's based on whether it's good for the company, the employees, the consumer, and their own pocketbook. While companies like Anheuser-Busch make bad decisions because they're worried about offending people, aka Bud Light. So putting shackles and handcuffs on content creators, and I'm starting to see it happen with other corporations. I've seen it with 2 corporations in Canada. I've started seeing it here more and more in the United States, where they're putting shackles on content creators of what they can and cannot say because they're afraid of offending an OEM or offending an executive at the RV manufacturing level. Let's see here. How many times did I talk about Don Clark on this podcast and me being upset with him over some of the poor decision making? Do you think the guy's offended by that? No, probably not. Do you think that do you think that they want to prove me wrong? Probably not. They're going to make decisions based on what they think is best for Grand Design in Winnebago, not what's best for the Honey Badger. And I'm going to make decisions about this podcast and this YouTube channel based on me and based on my audience and based on my potential audience, not based on what Grand Design and Winnebago want. So it's a symbiotic relationship between content creation and manufacturing, okay? This is where, like, the Liz Amazings of the world, we don't need a lot of them. We need one. Just her. That's all we need. Any more of her and it turns annoying. Okay? I'm pretty sure she's very happy that there's people that ultimately copycat her. And I'm pretty sure it's the biggest form of, like, what do you call it? Flattery. But from my seat, she does a good enough job. I don't agree with the way she does her content. I don't agree with her on a lot of things. But she's a necessity. But we don't need 1,000 Liz Amazings. We don't need 1,000 Wingman Wisdoms. We don't need more negativity all the time. We already get enough of that on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC. We need that balance. We need that camaraderie, and that's the problem when you're an independent creator. Okay, and this is the problem when you're an independent, when you're an independent creator, okay, and you have more freedom and not the shackles of don't offend anybody, there are a lot of things you can explore, okay? So for example, this is the greatest example, okay? One of the things I'm looking forward to exploring on the main channel, it probably won't happen till February, late February, early March, but I'm going to go try to find old RVs that have been abandoned and clean them up. And I'm just going to do it because I think there's a positivity to it, to take an abandoned piece, clean it up really nice, see what it would take to register it and get the title all cleaned up and everything else, and then figure out what to do with it. Do I donate it to a church? Whatever the case may be. When you watch some of the walkthrough videos that a lot of these guys are starting to do, it's everything's, yes, everything is great, everything's wonderful. That's the promotional part. But you also got to talk about, at the same time, things you don't like. That's one of the things I've always liked about Matt is never afraid to tell you what he doesn't like about an RV. You know, he's not afraid to tell you about what's going on in the world, right? And those are just some of the things that balance helps with. And content creation of any kind in any industry can't be all about, because like, I'll give you an example. One of the worst things I could possibly just think of off the top of my head is if we had, for example, this would shut down a lot of the copycats. If you had, let's say that the RV industry sold 300,000 RVs last year, and 299,950 of them had very little issues or no issues or no major issues, and are completely happy with their purchase and completely happy with the entire process. But 150 people had Armageddon level issues so bad that they're complaining to death. If you had the majority of people that were happy posting on the internet how happy and fun and exciting everything is, if YouTube had nothing but those videos, the 150 would get drowned out. But and it's not a problem, but the issue is, in that respect, is when people are happy, they don't go online and complain. And that goes for any industry and any product. We do not, as human beings, take time out of our day when we like something and go, I'm going to give that a 5-star review. We don't do it on every product. That's why you'll see like a lot of car dealerships and car industry people practically bribe you to put a review. Like, I had a buddy of mine that went and bought a Jeep the other day. And he said, they asked him, like, did you enjoy your experience? And he said, yeah. And they said, okay, well, if you put your review right here, this is after finance, this is after he signed docs. Signed docs, they're about to give him the keys to the new Wrangler he bought. And they go, if you give us a review, not a 5-star, if you do your review right now here on Yelp, Google, and Facebook, we'll give you a $500 credit to the parts department. Okay, I'll do that. He gave him a 4.5 or 4-star review on everything, because the one thing he didn't like was the fact there was a scratch on the car. So if they didn't bribe him with the $500, he would have never put a review, because he was happy with the whole process. He's like, I would have never thought to do that. I would tell people I had a good experience, but I'd never put it on the internet, because we don't think about it. But the minute we're pissed off, the minute somebody did something incredibly dumb and you're mad and angry and everything else, Instant share everywhere. On Instagram, on Facebook, on Yelp, on Pinterest, on Quora, on Reddit. Everything's negative, 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 negative everywhere. Right? And there's no balance of the positive stuff. So that's the reason why, like I've been reading a lot of comments on my YouTube videos lately. And if you don't think I don't read them and I don't take them seriously, I do. Okay. There's one guy commented early this morning. It was like this long of a paragraph on why consumerism in the RV industry is the reason why quality in the RV industry is bad. Okay. And I understood where he was coming from. When you read the whole thing, it's very thought out, very intelligent, missing a lot of context, but I know where he's getting it from. He's getting it because every time he turned around, there's a new negative video about frame failure in Grand Design. Every time he turns around, there's a new video about a motorhome sales ban that doesn't exist. Every time you turn around and you turn on your YouTube thing, it's either something super happy or super negative. And that's going around every industry. That's not just in RVs. That's in cars, that's in trucks, that's in boats, that's in the canned beans you get at the supermarket. It's why I think sometimes here in the United States, we have so many mental health issues. Because there's too many highs and too many lows. There's not enough stuff in between. And that's a part of life. You know, I was at a very high and now I'm at a very low in my life. You would never know it. The only reason why I told people about it on this podcast was because there were people that found out about one of my other channels, and then I got caught by a subscriber kind of sleeping in a car, and they were a little worried about me. And I'm like, well, that's going to spread like wildfire. So there's not enough here in the middle. And you know when I remembered about the middle? I remembered about the middle because of how many times I've had a crappy day at work. This is back in, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's pre-COVID. I have a crappy day at work, be in an absolutely foul mood, come home, and my kids would put me in this wonderful, mood. The minute I walk in the door, they're like, let's play Super Mario, let's play Monopoly, come check out what we did today. And, beer in one hand, kid in the other hand, type of thing. And it was just like the kids balanced me out from all the negativity of a bad day at work. So, yeah. Somewhat. I kind of agree with you, Danny, on that. I agree with you a little bit on that. That's true. It's me. And again, when I talked about all the frame problems that Grand Design is having, I also tell you about things I hear on the positive side. And I wish more people would do that. And you guys are probably sick of me telling you this, but Grand Design behind the scenes has been basically moving the process of making sure what their total damage is. What I mean by that is there are several Grand Design dealerships that have told me, and told me don't tell them because I could get in trouble type thing. But that the warranty department at Grand Design for the last, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks now, have been paying the service guys to go take the front off of the RV, of the fifth wheel, momentum, reflection, solitudes, lift it with a forklift, do measurements to see if it's got the frame failure or frame flex. Now, to me, that's the wrong way to go about it, because you're not going to see that problem right then and there because it hasn't traveled enough. It hasn't been loaded yet. There's a lot of problems I have with that concept. But let's say, and this is my example, let's say that they catch, let's say 30 of them out of 100 that they have done over the year or the last 5 weeks. Let's say they caught 20 of them. Okay. Then maybe it's during the maybe it's prior to them loading it, right? But I think what should happen instead, and this is just me speaking out loud here, I think what Grand Design should do instead, but they'll never do it because all the lawsuits going on right now, is when you buy a momentum, buy a solitude, and buy reflection, until they solve whatever engineering problem there is on the frame side of things, you have to have a 6-month checkup, completely free. You empty your momentum, you empty your solitude. It's a free checkup. You go send it to the dealership. The dealership at that point, because you've taken several trips, you've loaded it with water, loaded it with shit, all kinds of stuff in there. You've now traveled in it fully loaded a few times. Now have the front cap and everything taken off, have it lifted forklift, and do the measurements. That's what I think should happen. But just for them, in my mind, just for them to tell these service departments of their dealerships to test this, and they're paying them a good money to do it too. It's not cheap. Tells me that that's the most that I've ever heard a manufacturer admit they have a major problem. That is a complete admittance there's a problem. Why they haven't made it public and why they'll never confirm it obviously has to do with a lot of lawyers are out there trying to basically put this in court as a class action lawsuit. So, and from my perspective, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. But someone's got to give them some props. And I'll give them props. At least they thought about that. I would go about it a different way. But hey, that's a step in the right direction. That's why I say Grand Design will make a comeback. It won't go away. It's going to make a comeback. When and how long it'll take, who knows? But it will happen. Well, again, they can't do that. That's the problem. They can't, you can't do that because you don't know when. The problems are occurring when they're getting loaded, not when they're dry. Okay? So you could go test all the ones on the dealership lot, and they may all not ever have it. But then you load it with water, and you load it with all the goodies everybody takes with them. You put it on a truck. You go down a freeway. You go take 5-6 trips in it. That's when it starts showing the problems. It doesn't show the problems when it's dry. You know, that's the problem. That's where the thinking is wrong. Okay? And that's okay. I know why. Because if they did it that way and they start seeing massive problems, the class action lawsuit would be bigger than what it's already going to start out to be. I mean, there's guys out there fishing everywhere from all parts of the country. There's law firms that are coming together to spend money to fish to go after these guys. So it's like any admittance on their end, and it's like, that's like a red flag, right? So if you were to do it right, you'd have to do it 6 months, 7 months, a year after someone started using it and loading it. That would be the proper way to do it. The proper way to test frame failure and frame flex on any unit is you have to load it up, take it down the road for like a ton of trips, 4, 5, 6 trips, then come back, then take everything off, lift it, and test it. That's the proper way to do it, because that way it's been battle tested. The minute you do it dry, you don't have a leg to stand on. If your goal is to show, well, we don't have a problem, the minute you lose all credit, if that is their goal, if that's their true goal, is to, well, you see, we don't have any problems. No, that right there. If I got any word that was the issue, believe me, we would have a full episode where I would torch them for that. And every other YouTuber out there that doesn't sell Grand Design and is not affiliated with Grand Design would torch them for that, because that is stupid. You do not go have people test it to prove something. No. That's a better way to do it. Okay? That's a better way to do it. That's the exact way. But the ones they're doing on the lot that are new units, that's not to prove they don't have frame failure. That is simply because their intentions are good. Their intentions are not negative. But their intentions, from what I understand, are not to prove that they don't have the problem. Their intentions is to catch the problem early. Because if you catch the problem early, or as early as you can catch it, you could prevent more people gathering into this silly lawsuit. Every attorney, blood-sucking attorney, no offense if you're an attorney, but every blood-sucking attorney is trying to get into. That's the one part about, I'm gonna admit something, guys. The worst part about me doing this podcast is sometimes I get contacted by the most blood-sucking people. Okay? I mean, there are legitimate things that I get called about from attorneys and things like that, like legit stuff, like legit questions that have nothing to do with Grand Design. But the phone calls I get, the emails I get, the DMs I get from, oh, well, how do we prove that this is a Grand Design issue? I'm like, dude, I'm not going to help you with your silliness and your lawsuit. I'm not going to help lawyers in a class action lawsuit on something that, number one, would be very hard to prove in court. Okay? You're any of these attorney companies that are trying to sue Grand Design or sue Lippert over this frame problem is simply trying to entice a settlement and a quick and easy payday, which isn't going to be quick and easy, but they're looking for the big payday and they're looking for a settlement out of court. Okay? It's like low-hanging fruit. And to me, it's like, okay, I get that what you want to do, and I get you're taking advantage of the people that have been through an emotional roller coaster with this whole screwed up scenario. But really? Really? Don't you have better things to do with your time than to get these people's hopes up? They're never going to admit to the problem as long as they're... See, that's the other problem. How is a company like Grand Design or Winnebago going to admit there's a problem when blood-sucking attorneys are out there just waiting for them to admit it so they can go file a bunch of lawsuits? See, it's Amia, that's propaganda. That's not true. Because if that was true, then I wouldn't still be getting 10 to 15 emails a day from different people with Grand Design fifth wheels that are having frame failure problems that are 2023s and 2024s. Haven't heard of any 25s yet. There's been 0 25s that I've gotten any complaints on. But 23s, 24s, I'm still getting 10, 15 emails a day. They're getting jerked around. But I know it's going to get better. See, that's propaganda. And that bothers me too. That bothers me as much as blood-sucking lawyers is propaganda. And it's like, you guys don't need to come out and do all that. You know, if only you saw the messages that Dustin Simpson gets, the messages I get, the messages that a lot of people get, the Facebook groups that are growing in size over this frame problem with Grand Design, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Grand Design is one of the best. They got people brainwashed over this thing, and that's fine. I mean, you know, they have to still sell. So I'm not mad about it, but it's like, it just bothers me that you got to come up with all this propaganda. And by the way, just so you know, the last 4 emails I got about a momentum or reflection and a one solitude all came from the East Coast. Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia. I mean, people email me from all over the place. Dustin gets it mostly here on the West Coast because he's in California and he's the closest guy that actually knows what he's doing. There's people still, like, there's one guy that's in Tennessee, owns a bunkhouse reflection, 2024, and they tell him he's got to bring it back to Indiana, which in the long run, he don't mind. He's retired, okay? But they keep jerking him around about the appointment date. And I keep telling him it's because they have a bigger problem than what they want to admit to. Give it time. They teamed up with the affinity group. They'll get it fixed. I wouldn't worry about it. I told him I wouldn't worry about it. I know you're pissed because you haven't used it and haven't been able to use it and don't feel comfortable using it. So to tell me that there's only one that has occurred since the beginning of last year, no, that's not true. That may be what was tested on the dealer lot, but consumers, they tell a different story. And that's the problem. And that's, and in this case, I'm going to kind of blame the blood-sucking lawyers. I'm not going to blame manufacturing necessarily. I'm a little mad about that propaganda statement, but I will say, and not you, but them putting out that kind of propaganda. But I also blame the blood-sucking lawyer, because if Grand Design came out and admitted there's a problem and started the actual process of the healing with its consumer base that split, like, yeah, not sure if I really want to buy one of those because they're having a lot of issues. And the other part that's, well, Grand Design has never had a problem. You know, it's that split division of people. And what it would do in the end is, okay, we're going to fix everybody's rig. Then the blood-sucking lawyer comes in and goes, oh, they got a big problem. Let me get a big paycheck out of it. What do we call that? We call that ambulance chasers. So, I mean, because of all the, excuse my language, but because of all the bullshit in our civil legal system, we'll never know what the true number is. We'll never know if it was 1,000, 10,000, 20,000. We will never, ever know what the real number was or what the real number is. Because the minute you do anything that admits there's a problem, there's an ambulance chaser on its way to file a lawsuit. So we'll never know. We'll never know the real number. We'll never know whether the fix worked. We'll never know how many of them got bought out. sign NDAs, we'll never know what the real number is. And all that is due to our civil legal system here in the United States. Has nothing to do with manufacturing, has nothing to do with greed, has nothing to do with anything of that nature. Well, at least greed on the manufacturing end. It has to do with it has to do with how we look at things. If I say boo the wrong way, oh, is there a way to sue that guy for saying boo the wrong way? I mean, that's the way we act. Yes and no. I think what service guys at dealerships have told me is more of an admittance than going to a heavier duty box frame. Because, I mean, Keystone Bullet didn't have a problem at all with their frames, and they switched to BAL and Norco, not because they were having a problem with Lippert. They were actually fine with Lippert. Didn't have any problems with Lippert. But they did it for marketing reasons, to have something different and to have a conversation that was different. I can't remember who switched. Someone switched to NXG here recently. And again, it's not because they were having a problem with Lippert. They were fine with Lippert, had a good relationship with Lippert, didn't have any frame issues with Lippert. But when it went to NXG, just because the conversation and the marketing. So going to a heavier frame box or whatever the case may be on Grand Design's ends is more about marketing than it is about admittance. Because remember, they still, for them to stay in business, they still have to make sales. Okay? They can't just sit and keep doing the same thing over and over again. So that's not really an admittance. That's more of a marketing strategy to basically try to reel back in the people that blame this frame thing on Lippert. Like, I'll never buy anything with a Lippert frame. They're not blaming Grand Design. They strictly are blaming Lippert. That's what that's more about. Yeah, exactly. It's all about marketing. It's about marketing, because now that Lippert has this, and I'm using big quotation mark, bad reputation about their frames. If you didn't switch your frame over from Lippert, you're falling behind the marketing. If you didn't come up with some mega new name for a frame and talk about how we beef this up and we beef that up, that's not an admittance to something. That is strictly a marketing strategy to overcome an objection, right? Because if all these guys just stood still and did nothing, then they won't sell fifth wheels. They won't sell travel trailers, because the negativity of it, and I've talked about the negativity about it a lot, okay? The negativity of it, of a standard Lippert frame, if you didn't do anything to change your frame, especially on a fifth wheel, you are going to lose market share. Correct. But it doesn't matter. Again, it's a marketing thing. Rhino box frame. Oh, what a name. Rhino stands for tough, right? It's all marketing. It probably is a better frame. It's probably a better designed frame. But again, marketing, not an admittance. An admittance would be, hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, if you bought a 2014 to 2024 Grand Design Solitude, Reflection, or Momentum, we are doing a mass recall where we are having everybody's frame tested. That's an admittance. Okay? Everything else is all marketing, because you got to keep selling. Brinkley has to keep selling. Riverstone has to keep selling. Mobile Suites has to keep selling. Flagstaff, Rockwood, Cedar Creek. Everybody has to keep selling. You can't sell if you keep building on the same Lippert frame, because now everything becomes about, oh, well, Lippert builds that frame. Oh, but this is the difference between the Rhino box and this. This is the difference between this superstructure and this superstructure. You have to have a conversation of why you change something. If you don't have the conversation of how or what you changed, if all you did was, oh, well, we've never had a problem with our frame, so we didn't change anything, then people are cut off and shut off. Like, what are you doing different about the frame failure, frame flex thing? And you have to have that conversation. Whether, hey, we went to Lippert and they made this Rhino box frame for us, or we went to Lippert and we're on now the new super duper quadruple super seal steam frame triple superstructure, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have to have that conversation. Yeah, it's but it has to be a conversation, right? You have to have the conversation piece. If you don't have the conversation piece, you can't sell the unit, right? So Forest River Sabre is a big example of this. Forest River Sabre has not had frame problems. Not major frame problems at all. 10 years, never a big, huge, massive problem with a frame. Automatically switches to BAL and Norco. Automatically. 2024, 2025. Boom. Made the switch. It wasn't because they're mad at Lippert. It's not because they don't want to do business with Lippert. It's because they sat back and they went, wow, Grand Design is really having a problem. How do we take advantage of this? Well, we can't keep building on a Lippert frame and winning that battle. So we'll switch to BAL. We'll switch to Norco. And then we can have that conversation. And they gained market share. Does it mean BAL's better? No. But it got the nasty name of Lippert out of the mouth of a salesperson that was selling a Sabre. So now in Grand Design's mind, it's like, hey, all our 2025s are built on a Rhino frame, a Rhino box frame. It's the same type of frame that Brinkley uses. That's not an admittance that they had a problem. That is overcoming an objection that it's built on the same standard Lippert frame that they've been using for whatever, 10 years, whatever the case may be. That's all it is. So, and that goes with anything. We're talking about Grand Design, but that goes with anything. That goes with Ford. That goes with Chevy. That goes with Dodge. That goes with Kia, Hyundai, Subaru. It goes for any manufacturer of anything. Admitting there's a problem is a recall and an announcement. Anything else is propaganda to help push forward sales, drive sales. Because the name of the game is driving sales. Okay? And you can't sell anything when there's such negativity put behind it and you didn't make a change. Great example, Hyundai. Remember, everybody was stealing Hyundais last year. So easy to steal a Hyundai. Remember all that stuff? If Hyundai and Kia just stayed the status quo with what they were doing with their cars, people were buying them. They didn't admit they admitted there's a, but before they did the mass recall, they made changes to their cars and their SUVs to show people, well, we developed this new security system that prevents people from doing this, and that, and stealing your car. Then they admitted there was a problem and did a mass recall and everything else. There was a time you could not insure a Hyundai or Kia because there was bad. When insurance companies have a hard time insuring a product, that's when you know the problem is bigger than what the propaganda says. When I've had insurance people tell me that they've had a tough time insuring Grand Design fifth wheels for a period, it's a bigger problem than what people want to admit to. Does it mean all insurance companies aren't doing it? No, of course not. But it went through a lot of the things that Weekend Warrior went through. There's a lot of time. There's a time and place where there's some Weekend Warrior toy haulers that cannot be fully insured. They'll do only liability only. Grand Design has a widespread problem, but it's not nearly what Hyundai went through. It is a widespread problem because it's widespread over a 8-9 year period. And we don't know what the number is. We don't know what the real number is. We'll never know what the real number is because it's not tracked the same way an auto manufacturer has to track things. This is why there's a lot of people out there calling for federal oversight into the RV industry, because there's got to be a lot of folks that are lobbying Congress to have them have a federal agency that oversees the RV industry, is because we'll never know what the real number is because they don't track anything properly. And that's the entire industry. That's not just Grand Design. That's everybody. That's Forest River. That's Keystone. That's Coachman. That's Nexus. Nobody tracks things properly. Everybody flies by the seat of their damn pants. If this was to what the auto manufacturers have to track, we would know the exact number. And I bet you that number is big. I don't bet that. I guarantee you that number is a lot bigger than what we would all anticipate it to be. Because we're not talking about like 500 units were built a year. We're talking about thousands of units that were built a year. And let's say that number is 5%. Okay, let's say they build 100,000 fifth wheels. 5% is a big number. That's a lot of problems. Okay. It reminds me a lot of, in this case, it reminds me a lot of Gulfstream. Gulfstream with their Super Cs. They had, I don't know if you guys know this, but they were building them on the Workhorse chassis. So the Workhorse chassis was a front-end Super C, as well as, and it was gas. It was on a Chevy gas motor with an Allison transmission. We don't know what the real number is on the recall on the brake calipers and the transmission problems Allison was having with those front-end gas motors. We'll never know. But I guarantee you that it's more than 5%. But we'll never know because it's not tracked. It's not tracked properly because the RV industry has never tracked things properly. I'll give you a great example. This will be the most specific thing in the world. I can call for, and I'm going to pick on Forest River here for a minute, okay? We're going to pick on Forest River. I can call Forest River Flagstaff and Rockwood trailers, and I can call them and go, hey, so I need every single Flagstaff and Rockwood 2404 fifth wheel, or sorry, 524 fifth wheel that has been sold from 2019 to today. And I need to know how many of them have 2 air conditioners, how many of them have leveling jacks, etc., etc., etc. They can't do it. They cannot pull that data. They can't even pull the warranty data to tell you how many air conditioners went bad on that specific model over a 7-year period. They can't do it. Now, I'm picking on Forest River because that's easy to do, but Keystone can't, Heartland can't, Grand Design can't, Brinkley can't, because there's There's no tracking system for that in the industry because number one, there isn't that many RVs built a year compared to like the car industry, the boat, the bus industry, and the semi-truck industry. So we will never ever know, and this is on any major problem. Let's say that somebody has a roof collapse problem. Let's say Winnebago Motorhomes, as an example, decide one day we find out they have massive roof problems. They don't, but let's just use that as an example. We'll never know the real number. Exactly. But how many, then the question would be, how many of those 0732 QBSSs or QBBSs had that problem? Was it 1? Was it 5? Was it 20? How many of them had it from 03 to 2010? We'll never know. But it's not on specific model numbers. You and I have gone over this. I've gotten it widespread. It is widespread, anything over 35 feet. Now, where it's not with reflection is anything under 35 feet. Anything under 35 feet total length, I don't hear about any of it. But that's the same thing with Rockwood, Flagstaff, Cougar, same thing. Anything under 35 feet, I never hear anything. It's everything over 35 feet, I get an email. Just about every Momentum fifth wheel model number over the last 7-8 years, I've gotten at least one email on. So it's not just specific model numbers. It is an entire lineup. And then let's go back to your Wildcat. How many other Wildcats that were that same size had that problem? How many of them? We'll never know the number. It's not wrong. You know this because you've been on this channel. You know I've named them before. It is a widespread problem, 35 feet and over. Reflection, solitude, momentum. Go look inside all the Facebook groups that have this same issue. You can just see everybody has different model numbers. Not all of them are one model number or two model numbers. It's widespread. It's the same thing about that Forest River Wildcat you're talking about. That Forest River Wildcat, how many of the other model numbers were having that problem? How many sizes had that problem? How many times did they have that problem? I can't show you because I don't own one, but I'm pretty sure you can find them. If you look hard, and I went through my emails, I'm pretty sure you can find them. But I don't share people's information on here. You know that. And I'm pretty sure I've got a few 415Gs that have had that problem. It's a newer floor plan, but I'm pretty sure I got a few of them. I'm not BSing. See, so hey, you don't have to be here anymore. Okay? You don't have to be here anymore. You're never going to win me over with Grand Design and them not having it down to specific model numbers. You're never going to win me over on that because you're not sitting there reading my emails every day. If you were sitting here reading my emails all day, every day, you would have a whole different perspective on things. So don't give me the crap that I'm BSing. Don't give me that. You're not sitting there reading my emails every day. You're not sitting there reading people's stories. I'm in my car on the phone. You want me to get off the live stream and go get all the emails and read them to you out loud? So for one person, I got to go and do all this homework to prove I'm not BSing. Lovely. Thank you. Brainwashed by Grand Design. Let's be brainwashed by all the brand ambassadors and all the people. Now I'm pissed. Everything over 35 feet. That's what I said. I said anything under 35 feet, I haven't gotten an email on. That's specifically what I said. I didn't specifically say, oh, it's every single one. Every single one over 35 feet, I've gotten an email on. Anything under 35 feet, I haven't heard a peep. Those 26, 27, 28, 29 model numbers, haven't heard a peep. See, you're starting to sound like my buddy Noah. My buddy Noel is so brainwashed. He thinks that there never has been a frame problem. He's been told by Grand Design himself, because he's the #1 fifth wheel salesperson in the country in Grand Design. And he's been told there's never, ever been a problem. Ever. It's all junk to try to trash Grand Design's name. I'm like, bro, are you serious? Do you even go on the internet? Oh, those people are just looking for attention. They're just looking for money. Okay. Fucking people. Brainwashing propaganda. I swear to God. Dawn, it's not every fifth wheel built. It's not even every single fifth wheel built through the factory on Grand Design. Okay. But let me breathe for a minute. Arctic Fox is a great fifth wheel because they build their own frames. Everything's in-house. They're expensive as all can be. But they're worth every dime. But you have plenty of other options if you want a lesser expensive unit. One thing I've been telling people a lot about, and Dustin Simpson and I had this conversation, okay? Maintenance is a big part of it. Checking your RV after every trip. Just the simplest things. Like, get under and check your frame. Make sure there's no cracks. Make sure your landing gears are straight. Make sure that you don't overload the fifth wheel in the cab part. Try to put as much weight of the coach in towards the axles instead of up front in the bedroom. The problem is like Alliance is a good product. Brinkley's okay, overpriced, but okay. Forest River makes some good products. Keystone Cougar's a good product. A lot of good products out there. Arctic Fox is a great product. A lot of good products out there. Cedar Creek. The secret is with anything, including toy haulers, is you have to check things. And once you find a problem, don't sit on it and say, I'll fix it later. You have a frame problem with your own travel trailer and not know it. You don't check and get underneath and just check, or have somebody check for you. That's what I would do. If I owned what I'm going to do with my Keystone Cougar is when I get it down to California, I'm probably going to take it to Dustin's shop, have him go through it. I'm going to have him check the frame. It's 6 years old. Check for stress cracks in the I-beam. Check for other things. Get ahead of it rather than behind it. Even if there's not a problem, pay him to check it. Why not? Preventative maintenance. That's how I look at it. I'm sorry. I got a little emotional there. It just pisses me off when I get people that call me a liar all you want. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. It bothers me when you tell me that the folks that are emailing me and talk to me about their frame problems, that you're calling them a liar. No wonder, and you know what? That just proves to me right there why people don't want to talk about it publicly and why they keep it to themselves. They're scared that, we'll prove it, we'll prove it, we'll prove it. I mean, no wonder these people are scared half to death. No wonder they ask me specifically in almost every email, please don't share my information. Please don't tell anybody that I told you this, but we're in the process of this, this, and this with this momentum, or this solitude, or this reflection. We bought it here, we bought it there, we're having issues here, we're having issues there. No wonder nobody wants to talk about it publicly. And the people that do talk about it publicly are freaking annihilated. You can annihilate me all I want. Just don't call the people that email me a liar. That's all I ask. You want to call me a lying sack of crap? Call me a lying sack of crap all you want. That's fine. I can take it. I could care less. And you can keep coming on here and trolling me about it. I don't care. But don't call the people that have put their hard-earned money and their heart and soul into something only to be disappointed. Don't call them the liar. Suspension. Upgrade the suspension. Absolutely. You should follow Dustin. There's no specific model numbers. That's what you don't understand. It is widespread, 35 feet and over. There's models that are no longer manufactured that are having the problem. There's new models that are manufactured that have only a list of a few. So now you're asking me to dig in because you're a skeptic. You're asking me to dig in to all the emails I've gotten and start redoing my spreadsheet that I deleted off my computer because I was done with it. Because they were starting to fix everything. I was starting to get reports of people getting their rig fixed. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about it as much anymore because it's starting to move. And I started, like, what's her faces on Facebook were dealing with all that, and I could move on to other subjects. And I only have so much room in that old ass computer I use to keep files. I have to delete my filmings and shit like that all the time. Why? Because I love that computer. It has the best editing software I've ever used. I'm not getting rid of it. Yeah, go to it's California RV Specialist. Just put it in YouTube, California RV Specialist. He's great. I had him on the podcast the other day. He's really good. Yes, 35 feet and less. 35 feet and less have not had any problems. Don't be calling people names, Boo Bad. There's no need to call people names. It's almost 11. All right, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys later.